Gayatri Mahamantra with your back straight, both hands on your laps, left beneath the right, contemplative mood. Om Bhuribhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Invocation of the Guru in the form of Adi Guru Munived Vyas. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Deva Sakshat Par Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Akhanda Mandalakaram, Vyaptam Yena Characharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Om Shri Guruve Namaha. Avahayami sthapyami dhyayami pugyami tato namaskaram karomi. Shrimed Bhgavad Gita, chapter number 8, Akshar Brahma Yoga, verse number 11. The verse we embark upon today has a very special significance. This raises a question that do you mean to say that other verses, Shlok, they do not carry that equal significance? No, not that is not so. It happens that when you are on that movement to embark upon any particular verse, the kind of mesmerizing effect it has cast upon you, that moment makes you convey that it holds a special significance. Although each and every single verse under Shrimad Bhagavad Gita holds its own special significance. They all are unparalleled. So many mountains standing beside each other. We can term it as 700 mountains with an equal height are prevailing on the same ground. It's an imaginary statement in order to give the obedience to each and every respective verse among 700 in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The special significance that I wish to indicate today exceeds the words of the shlok itself. One, on the count of its beautitude in the language it has been conveyed to us, Sanskrit. Sanskrit may or may not be into that absolute form that it was during those moments when Adi Guru Muni Vedvyas observed, experienced, witnessed the divine intuit within himself, and then thereafter it was scripted, composed by Adi Guru Muni Vedvyas and scripted by Ganapati, Gajanan. But yet, whatever we have today in the form of the language Sanskrit and the way the compositions come, the way that punctuation and expression unfolds, with the little knowledge about the languages so far I've come across, little knowledge. Based upon them, I can certainly convey that Sanskrit undoubtedly shall never fetch any other parallel. Shall find another parallel? No, I'm using the word fetch, not for the language Sanskrit, but for the mind that wants to comprehend through the beautitude of expression, especially the esoteric knowledge. The esoteric knowledge composed, expressed, and further down to the generations to come as an endowment, Sanskrit as the mode is something which is unparalleled. Another aspect to that goes to the one who unraveled this scripture, this immutable scripture, before these modern times, and that is none other Adiguru Shankaracharya. Adiguru Shankaracharya is the second mention which I would like to convey as a specific reference, specific significance to this verse, which probably the generations of this day, especially upon our Jambu Deep, with more specific reference to the Indian peninsula on this subcontinent, we have not been able to do justice to the life of Adiguru Shankaracharya. The injustice has been done to remain ignorant about him. Who has to be held responsible for that? Well, I would not like to go and investigate into that aspect, but I would like to emphasize what could now be done for that matter. Why is it necessary for us to know about the life and the contributions of Adiguru Shankaracharya? Do others, they stand nowhere in front of him? No, that is not so. Then what specific reference do you want to draw out of him to such an extent that you said that the generations of this day on this peninsula are deprived of knowing him? On what count? Yes, we all dispense our day to day obligations, that is, we conduct our life through our own energies, capabilities, our productivity, limits that we bear. Somewhere we scale ourselves according to the curtailed understanding about our own inner potential. We assume that our body cannot perform more than this, a particular amount of assignment. We also give ourselves a firm understanding that our mind, our brain becomes exhausted after dispensation of a particular quantity of work. So we somehow, the entire productivity scale of our own potential is under a confinement of our given understanding that we have developed right from the childhood onwards. Of course, yes, it was developed while watching others around us, maybe at home and outside. And it was presumed that having done so in a day is enough. Now there is nothing left in us to do anything more. Now we should simply lie down or do something else, but not work. And this has immensely, immensely impacted the potential of the ancient Indian wisdom. The potential of ancient Indian wisdom could have cherished its objective had there been a generation and generations to come that would have realized their true potential within and would have exercised that. And while exercising that, they would have far exceeded the limits they generally consider as having done for their livelihood. In general parlance, whatever we do for a livelihood is enough to exhaust us for a day. We are done for that, with that. Now, since we were not able to somehow gather an understanding, it was not bestowed upon us about the exalted ones like Adiguru Shankaracharya, who within a limited span of life were able to perform, were able to dispense, were able to deliver something that shall startle the modern mind. He was around 1200 years ago, or maybe I'm not getting into the exact chronological order of it, exact year, though it is in dispute, but yet let us rise beyond that. He lived a limited age which was not even more than 40 years, between 30 to 40, rather in early 30s. He was also in a stage when he was a child, not able to do anything, not able to contribute or accomplish, maybe around 4 to 5 years. Then he had also to go for the schooling, the learning, absorption. Thereafter, he started his career. I'm giving it a word, career, with an understanding that all business which he was able to perform in his life, although the business that he performed in his life was nothing except acting as a parshad of the Brahma. Parshad of the Brahma means acting merely to complement the will of the God. That was his business. To serve the will of the God, to serve the will and to serve the time by establishing the essence of Sanatana Paddhati once again, which was vulnerable at that moment to various kind of infringements and attacks from several sides. Now, if you want to observe his contribution, you should first of all give a special attention to the way he used to live a particular day. You take out, let us have a contemplative exercise. I'm not embarking upon it today, but for those who are students and seekers who want to ignite within themselves that immense potential which lies dormant, latent potential, and really want to excel and contribute and accomplish in this life, they should undergo this exercise and try to assess how was a single day of his life a contribution to the mankind, to the generations to come. You, from his total age of whatever it was, you reduce around 5 to 7 years that one that were assigned to his childhood and learning, enough for him. The remaining part of this age and the contribution he was able to do by taking into consideration the kilometers that he was able to traverse each single day barefoot. He traversed this nation, crisscrossed it several times by foot, barefoot. There were no bridges that time. All odds, especially when you come to infrastructure and transportation, it was everything was manual because no other source of energy had been developed at that moment of time. Fossils were non-existent as a reservoir of energy, source of energy. So therefore, all of his movements were barefoot. He was not observed using horses, camels, or elephants. If at all, it has not come to my understanding, my knowledge. Walking for so many kilometers every day with so much of fatigue, which was now well grounded in a human physical dimension, retiring for the day, meeting people, communicating with them, conveying the message, the revolutionary message of the revival of the Sanatana Paddhati, creating structures of Sanatana Paddhati, and at the same time, before he would fall asleep, light a lamp and start writing his interpretations upon our immutable scriptures. You try to calculate the life he was able to spend while working, minus 7 years, gone to childhood, and the way he was able to work, communicate with people, was able to reorganize the entire structure of Sanatan Paddhati in the entire nation, was able to ignite thousands and thousands and thousands of people, hundreds and thousands of people, to such an extent that people got so impressed about him at such a tender age when there was no social media to propagate, there was no news channel that could establish his authenticity. He, in person, at a tender age, as a young age, young lad, he had to talk with everybody with all brainstorming that he could do. elucidation of knowledge of the immutable scripture to such an exalted level, which was unparalleled, that the minds of that time had no other option except to submit before him. With such kind of an exalted excellence within him at that tender age of entire deprivation, especially in the light of the resources of that time. And he himself was a renunciant. So, obviously, in the capacity of a renunciant, you cannot expect him to be born of resources or even of that time. It was much later that certain kings, the rulers of the time in special pockets of the country, were somehow able to contribute towards his job, his task. But you calculate the amount of work he was able to do in one single day after undergoing intense, intense, yes. How intense? Yeah, you can equate it to the kind of a strenuous exercise of any special forces. The amount of exhaustion that any special force commando shall undergo after spending a day was can be equated to the kind of physical work which he was doing during each particular day of his life. He was walking and walking and walking, walking among odds, within odds, had to confront the odds. There were no events before him. Things were not spread before him. Things were not submitted before him. He had to contest for every single step which he was moving ahead by foot and by mind, by thoughts as well. He had to contest every minute he was living. Contest by the distance and contest with the minds. Now you compare that kind of work which he was able to dispense in one single day of his life, Jivan Din, and compare the same output with the kind of contribution we make within a day, with the kind of productivity we deliver within a day, inclusive of our livelihood. Do we stand anywhere? Thickly speaking, not even a thousandth part of it. Thousandth, thousandth part of it. Leave aside anything. Why is it so that we are not able to contribute, me inclusive, myself inclusive, even the thousandth part of his contribution, of his outcome, of his productivity, which he was able to do among all odds, with having so many amenities, having so many resources of the day available to us, even to the common ones, in the form of communication infrastructure, etc. Why is it so? Because somewhere at the back of the mind, we have been programmed. We have been constituted to think in a way that this is enough for a day, which a physical, if it's a physical dimension, that is this body, this mortal remain, can dispense. A human cannot do more than this. These are the limits of a physical body. And we also have a programming, deep programming engraved within ourselves. I'm using a word engraved with programming. How far they are coherent, I don't know, but I'm using it to emphasize that we have a deep engraving within ourselves that a human mind becomes exhausted of work with the work after this span of time. After that, it must lie down, it must throw everything away, and then simply become like a vegetable. Act like a vegetable, do nothing, inactivity. That's the kind of programming that we have got right from a childhood. Who to blame? None to blame. Who to blame? None to blame. But to blame someone? Yes. Who is that someone? Someone who never questioned this. Who is that someone who never questioned this? Who never took into consideration that there is a need for us to propagate the life of Adiguru Shankaracharya, not only confined to the light of his contribution towards Sanatana Paddhati, not only confined to that aspect, but a larger aspect of it which goes beyond Sanatana Paddhati towards the human potential. How many of us today would be aware about the life of Adi Guru Shankaracharya, what all he was able to accomplish in a very limited span of time which he was given by the Almighty? Although he was given a little extension by his grand guru, Dada Guru, his life was coming to an end according to the will of the Brahma, but his Dada Guru gave him a further lease of life. That is how we gather while studying certain books and all. Now, with that limited span of time, life which he was able to live through and the accomplishments which he made, that is something for us to study. That is something for us to convey to the generations to come. Who will do that? Do we need to convey to the government to include it in the curriculum? No, 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 not at all. This is not something which governments can do, because any child who comes to the school is at a much later stage, and even the subjects, even at the tender age 3 plus etc., that are being taught today, are not of that kind. They are different. Then who shall take the responsibility? Mother. Who? Mother. The mother. How can she take down the responsibility? She has to become a complete mother in order to create a complete human. Can she create a complete human? She is the only one who can do that. Others can merely compliment. Others can merely give some icing. That's all. Nothing more than that. Some cherry placements. Nothing more than that. Cherry placement and icing can be done by the society at large, by education, etc. But what about the fundamental, the basic? That is the mother. Why? She is the one who envisions the child, envisions the child. Before even the child comes into any physical form within her own embryo, she envisions. And then we have an important turning point in her life, especially in Sanatan Paddhati, as Garbhadhan Sanskar. When it is considered that soul has manifested now into the womb of the mother. Now it is time for her to become more alert. The level of vigil must rise above, not only within that lady who is now pregnant, but also around the entire surround which is around her. They also have to raise the levels of their vigil towards her, because she is now under a very important experiment where a soul has manifested, and a soul in its complete form. Complete form mean, do you mean that soul can be decimated? Soul cannot be decimated, but yes, the emanation of the soul can certainly be decimated. Emanation means the layerings of it. Man buddhi chit ahankar, sanskar. So a lady at that age should now understand the responsibility and start associating with subjects of this kind. This all we have been hearing since long. Yes, we have been hearing it since long. But how serious has been the attention towards to what to do, the details of it. Not only during that duration, but even after delivering the baby, when the child comes to an age where the child can be given certain stories, during those moments the child has to be now, certain inputs have to be now given to the child. What are those? They have to be instilled into it. What are those? Your potential, the capability and capacity of your physical dimension, the limitless potential of your human brain, the indomitable power of your mind, and above all, the source of everything, that is consciousness. That can be imparted and instilled into the child by certain messages, and the right messages to give the child an understanding about the human potential through the lives of the exalted ones like Adi Guru Shankaracharya. If the child from the tender age has now absorbed this is the human potential, then it shall not confine or curtail itself by dispensation of small task, shall not declare as exhausted, having done all. My energies have depleted for the day. No. The excuse prawn, most vulnerable to what? Most vulnerable to excuses. Why? Because the embedded understanding is I cannot do beyond this limit. So, hence, it should not be expected out of me. If a mother can utilize the wonderful opportunity of conveying the child the life of Adi Guru Shankaracharya, I'm again reiterating it, not only in the light of Sanatan Paddhati, but beyond that, in the light of the productivity of the Adi Guru Shankaracharya, to the extent he was able to contribute, I think we will be producing not humans but wonders. Wonders who will be able to excel much more than people do today. Do we not observe around us corporate professionals who work, who are considered to be working for 5 days, but in actual, they have to work for much more than that? Who actually are considered to be working for 8 hours a day, but have to work much more than that? The kind of stress and baggage they have, to extents that right at the age of 35, they start preparing for pack up. At 40, if they're not able to, but they're almost done. At 45, even then, if they're not able to, they have now gone. So, what happens when they're 50? Almost a declaration that nothing can be taken out of us now. The soil is depleted. Leave the land fallow till the next life. FALLOW. Because now you cannot grow any crop in us. We are done. So, but a human who has been instilled the understanding about its potential right in the womb by given exemplary understanding about the life sketch of Adi Guru Shankaracharya shall not do the same. Shall find and realize that no, my potential is beyond. I confined myself. It was me who belittled my own self in the sense of physical aspects and mind as well. So, this is very important. Why I am taking this aspect today? Because the verse of the day conveys something like that. I shall give a little time to the verse so that you can connect with what all I said right now and observe for yourself that whom Keshav, the divine intuit, considers as apt, eligible to cherish that ultimate objective of total dissolution, Atmano Mokshartha. What are the eligibility factors for that? Who are the apt ones who can claim that accomplishment of the ultimate objective? Let us observe the verse. Yat aksharam ved vidah vadanti vishanti yat yatayah vetaragaha yat ichchantah brahmacharyam charanti tatate padam sangrahena pravakshaye. Yat aksharam, yat aksharam, aksharam, something which cannot dismantle, decay, degenerate, disengage, disembark, something which is immutable. An indication given to that Brahma itself. Yes, it's an indication to the word Om, to TOO. But even through the word Om, the actual indication is given towards that supreme Brahm, the ultimate reality. Yat Aksharam, Veda Vidaha Vadanti. Who shall be able to cherish that objective of emancipation? One who now understands the knowledge of the Veda. What Veda wants to convey. Yata Yata Yaha. Yati. Yati means one who has the capability to strive forward, one who has the capability to commence, to embark upon sadhana, the rigorous struggle, who is capable enough now. Not only that one who has to now embark towards struggle or sadhana, but the one who is capable too, having the capability to perform an exercise is different than to say you have to do this exercise. By merely saying you cannot make anyone do that exercise. It is therefore that we have so many preparatory exercise before the main exercises. In several realms, we observe it even in yoga. There are kriyas before you come down to the asanas. You move, you stretch your limbs, your nerves, so that you can attain a particular posture. Even to attain a particular posture, you have to stretch. That stretching aspect, that capability, eligibility aspect is yati, one who is capable enough now to strive forward. Vitaraga, amidst whom now there are no ripples created by the infiltration of desires, the popping desires that come and infringe every passing minute. Now there are no more. There is a total seizure. They have ceased to exist now. One who is under brahmacharya. Brahmacharya should not be confined to celibacy. No, it is a very vast understanding that encompasses much more. A brahmachari is one who is under total self control. But self control, self discipline, does it mean discipline merely confined to one particular sense? No. All distractions from wherever, when they are gathered and rolled back within one, should be considered as self discipline. In discipline is not merely an exercise of one sense alone. No, that will be to belittle the understanding of a vast term that encompasses so much into it. Brahmacharya is one who is eager enough to learn, who is there now, prepared, ready, with all discipline to learn, undergo the absorption of knowledge. Unless you have these three capabilities of knowing the Veda, the understanding of the Veda, the essence of the Veda, and you are prepared, well prepared, and capable to strive forward. Now, desires don't torment you, they don't distract your attention, and at the same time, you're under total self discipline for the absorption of knowledge. That shall attain that ultimate objective of Yata Aksharam, indicated as Om. Charanti tatate padam, padam is parampada, that exalted state, ultimate exalted state of emancipation, of moksha. Sangrahena pravakshahe, in brief, Sangrahena, in brief, pravakshahe, now I shall convey. The Lord conveys that absolutely, the word absolutely should not be the right word here to be used. Well, I will use the word atmano moksha, the moksha. Let me use the word moksha. The state of moksha is for those who know the essence of the Veda, are capable enough to strive forward. Ripples of desires no more torment and distract them, and they are in self discipline, absolute self discipline, and prepared, submitted to know, to learn, to them, for them. I now, in brief, convey to you. Now, here, Adiguru Shankaracharya, in his interpretation, has given an addition to this, to the word Yat Aksharam. Aksharam, of course, means Aksharam, as I defined it earlier, Om. Adiguru Shankaracharya conveys it has two aspects. One is Param, one is Aparam. Para is beyond. Aparam is something which is manifested. Let us take it as manifested. Om has two aspects. One is the manifested aspect in the form of the material world that we see, and the subtle planes of existence which may not be visible to us, but they do exist. What are they? They are aparam aspect of the Om, the Brahma. A, O, Ma, or the symbol of Om, or the Om that we chant, all are aparam. They are the manifested aspects of that vibration, which is the cosmic mother of all other vibrations that facilitate for all and every creation to manifest. Visible, invisible, both. And then there is an aspect of the same Brahma as Param, the most esoteric, the ultimate. What is that? Where nothing exists, it only exists within itself. What does it want to convey? It exists within itself. Yes, these are the only available words that can be utilized for that. These are the only available words which can be utilized to convey about the Param aspect of the Brahma. It resides within itself. It acts nothing, does nothing, just stays bliss within itself. But how can we understand bliss within itself? Had it been so, we would have realized our ultimate objective. There are certain things we can only indicate by words. We cannot assume beyond that. Of course, certain blissful aspects of them are experienced in deep meditation, but that's a very transient and very ephemeral aspect of it. Transient, ephemeral, peripheral. These words can be conveyed for that blissful experiences gathered during those moments. But yet they are not the true ones, because after that we come back. A fragmented self goes to taste the blissful aspects, and within the fragmented state it tastes and then comes back. So what have you got? Cannot even say that justice were done or not. Whom I'm conveying? During the states of deep meditation, whatever blissful experiences we gather are simply equivalent to the past line which I mentioned. If I had been writing, I would have written aforementioned line. So he says that Brahma has two aspects. We have to start from the aparam, a, u, ma, om, the symbol, meditate upon it. But the ultimate objective is to get absorbed into the paramas, param Brahma, where there is nothing. It alone exists. Bliss within itself, limitless within itself. That's it. Enough for the day. ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है.